when I saw these two photos, it definitely raised some eyebrows and it made me really take a second hard look. And maybe, yes, she did have cosmetic surgery during her incarceration. That's an explanation, but it's just, they just don't look the same.
So today I'm joined by Dr. Michael Zarrabi, who is a board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeon, who thinks that the Ghislaine Maxwell currently sitting in the Bryan, Texas low-level security prison is not Ghislaine Maxwell herself, but in fact an imposter. Dr. Zarrabi, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's get into this. With the release of the Epstein files, there have been a lot of conspiracy theories floating around the internet. And it seems like one of the conspiracy theories is the one that you're stating, that Ghislaine is not the actual Ghislaine currently sitting in prison. And why do you think that?
Yeah, everything you said, I think is true. There's definitely a lot of conspiracy theories around Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and I don't want viewers out there to think that I am some nutty conspiracy theorist, but when I saw these two photos, it definitely raised some eyebrows and it made me really take a second hard look at these two photographs. And these photos, as you mentioned, were, I believe, released by the DOJ, and it shows a photograph of Ghislaine Maxwell at some point before her incarceration and now while she's incarcerated. And the photos look remarkably different. Everyone that I've shown these two photographs to are understandably shocked and surprised by how dissimilar the two photographs look. So almost everything has changed about her. The shape of the jawline has changed. The shape of the nose has changed. And probably the most telling is the shape of the upper and lower eyelids look completely different.
So talk to me about this. Do you know when the first picture of Ghislaine was taken? We have them both up on screen right now. Is it possible that she, just got some work done in between the time that picture was taken and the time of her incarceration?
That's certainly possible, but in the photographs that I did, the research into some of the photos that I did, I believe both those photos were taken while she was incarcerated. So I don't think that she somehow had cosmetic surgery during her time in prison. Now, don't get me wrong, inmates they are deserving of medical care. They do require medical attention. However, I'm not sure if that includes having cosmetic surgery to make your eyelids look more youthful. That seems a little out there.
And I'm seeing in these pictures, there's almost a widening of the nose. Is that something that can happen naturally over time?
Certainly, as we age, the nose can become a little larger. It can also become a little bit more droopy. But the changes that you're seeing there, I don't think are age related. Now, to be fair, there are subtle differences in which the ways the photographs were taken. So in one photo, her head is slightly oriented differently, which can definitely affect the shape of the nose, and it can also affect the shape of the jawline, depending on how the angle of the photograph was taken. But what is undeniable is the change in the shape of her eyes. So when you look at her before, she has a lot of heaviness in her upper eyelids. There's a lot of fullness. The eyelid crease itself, the fold above the eyelashes, is very close to the eyelashes in her earlier photo. And then when you look at the newer photograph, you can see that the eyelid crease is sitting a lot higher. There's less fullness. I mean, again, either this is a different person or she had cosmetic surgery. And when you look at the lower eyelids as well, you'll notice that there's a lot more fullness to the lower eyelid region. There's a little bit of fat there. Now, in the more recent photographs, there's almost a little hollowing, which again suggests either she had eyelid surgery to remove some of the skin or to even remove some of that fat. It looks very, very different.
Don't you think, it's a little out there to say that it's an imposter? Because I think to switch someone out, it would require so many people, especially with a case at this level. It would require so many people that someone would have to let something slip or talk. Don't you think it's a little out there to propose a theory like this?
I agree with you. I agree with you, which is why I struggled with this And I mentioned that, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm looking at two photographs that don't look alike. So at minimum, there needs to be some explanation around these two photos. And maybe, yes, she did have cosmetic surgery during her time during her incarceration. That's fine. That's an explanation, but it's just they just don't look the same. And, yes, I agree with you that a lot of people would have to be involved to cover such a thing up. But don't forget, we also thought that Jeffrey Epstein hung himself in prison, and yet there's no video evidence. Um, the videos of his surveillance while he was incarcerated surprisingly went missing. I think I heard something that the security guard happened to be on a break. So even that is kind of fishy if you ask me. So I agree, it sounds crazy, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but again, I'll leave it up to your audience to look at those photos and see what they think. They don't look like the same person to me.
And so, in your mind, I know this is outside of the world of plastic surgery, but what do you think happened here? You genuinely subscribe to the theory that it isn't her? Do you think there's any possibility that it's the same person and those facial features just changed with age?
I think it's absolutely possible that we are looking at the same person, but without a doubt, there have been changes to her face, in particular the upper and lower eyelids, that cannot be explained by the natural process of aging. They can be explained by having cosmetic surgery, but there's so much more than just her eyelids. Certainly, the stress of being incarcerated can accelerate the aging process, but it doesn't suddenly make your eyelids look more youthful.
Have you ever heard of a plastic surgeon doing surgery within a prison before?
Yeah, like I mentioned, inmates are entitled to health care. And there are certain circumstances where we do skin reduction surgery or upper eyelid surgery when it is for reconstructive purposes. So, for example, somebody comes in, they have so much excess skin in their upper eyelid that it's actually interfering with their vision, right? So, in order to help improve their vision, we remove the excess skin. But you looking at her photos before, I wouldn't think that she would qualify for upper eyelid surgery for reconstructive reasons. It doesn't look like that skin was obstructing her vision. And certainly the lower eyelids don't interfere with your vision, and there's no reason to have surgery on your lower eyelids unless it is considered a cosmetic procedure. So unless we're now covering cosmetic surgery for inmates, I don't really see a good explanation for these changes.
Dr. Zarrabi, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Let's see what the audience and the viewers have to say.
I agree. Thanks a ton.